If you want consistent games, then you need to start adopting a consistent mentality.
Headshot.
Spike down A.
Over there. Over there. Enemy A. Dizzy's up top.
One enemy
No
remaining.
chance.
Hi, I'm Tristan, and I'm a hard-stuck, low elo player documenting my Valorant improvement journey with the goal of reaching Diamond. You're currently watching episode 6, and I will be posting weekly update videos discussing how the process is going. My aim for this series is to talk to you guys about my mistakes so that you won't make the same ones, and also to show you guys how I'm trying to fix those mistakes. Basically, how I'm thinking about it is by the end of this series, if I was a low elo player and I wanted to learn the game, this series would be a really good resource. Also, I think it's super cool to basically have a log of my progress that I can look back at any time and see what my thought process was, and to see how far I've come. If this sounds like the kind of series you would enjoy, please subscribe as it helps me out a lot and it doesn't cost you anything. Anyways, if you haven't already, be sure to check out the previous episodes so you can be all caught up. Here are the updates from last week. So I actually managed to rank up on my ult from Silver 2 to a couple games off of Gold. My ult is basically my main at this point, but I think it's fine. It's helpful for my mentality, and that's the main reason I implemented it. So the number one reason why I was able to climb was 100% because I adopted the new mindset about teammates that I talked about in the previous episode. For me, that completely changed the game because I was no longer worried about the terrible plays that my teammates were making because I just didn't care. I knew I couldn't control them and I wasn't going to waste my effort and energy on trying to. So I just did my best to play around whatever they happened to be doing and focused on fragging out. This also removed a lot of the stress that I would put on myself for trying to make a hero play and play perfectly to counteract whatever my teammates were doing. I would just observe what they were doing and try to play around it as best I could, and whatever the result was whatever the result was. My games felt so much more relaxed and free where I wasn't constantly worried about what was going to happen each round. I just played the game as it happened and focused on hitting my shots. It felt like I had finally unlocked the style of gameplay that everyone had told me to play. Bro, just stop caring, just play the game. It was also much easier to play multiple games at a time because one bad game wouldn't tilt me and ruin my whole session, especially if I knew there was nothing I could do about it. Now, obviously, it wasn't perfect and I still had bad games individually, but my games were much more consistent. Now, let me talk about another realization that I had. So, in most competitive games, the general rule of thumb is that 20% of your games, your team will be so much better that you will win no matter what. 20% of your games, your team will be so much worse that you will lose no matter what. And 60% of your games, your individual performance will determine whether or not you win or lose the game. Basically, over the long run, the 20% games will cancel each other out, and the 60% games will determine whether or not you climb. So, the thing is, you don't need to hard carry every 60% game. You see, in those games, the teams are pretty even, right? Meaning that you might have a couple of good players on each team and a couple of bad players on each team. Now, all of these players, whether they are good or bad, are going to make a lot of mistakes and they will also make some good plays. Since the teams are even, their mistakes and good plays will cancel each other out and the score will be pretty close. The last factor is you. Now, if both teams are even, that means if you play worse than the average of the players in your lobby, you will lose. And if you play better than the average of the players in your lobby, you will win. So that means that all you have to do is make more good plays and less bad plays than the average player in your lobby. How do you do that? Be disciplined, play fundamentally, don't tilt, and focus on hitting your shots. Now, do you think the average low elo player is doing any of those things? Absolutely not. So if you focus on doing them, you have a pretty good chance of swinging the game in your team's favor, and in the long run, you will climb. There's a basketball quote that I heard somewhere that goes, "The best players don't hit every shot. They just never miss the easy ones." The same goes for Valorant. You don't have to hit the most insane shots. You just have to make sure you never miss the easy ones. After realizing this, I didn't feel stressed or pressured to play perfectly because I knew that I didn't have to play perfectly to win. Now obviously, I still tried my best to play as well as I could, but I didn't put the expectation on myself that I had to play insane. Basically, I would strive for great and end up pretty good, which most of the time would be enough to win. Shoot for the moon, land among the stars type shit. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't try to hard carry. You definitely should. But just don't put the expectation on yourself that if you don't, you will lose, because that is just extra pressure and stress that can cause you to tilt and ultimately play worse. But yeah, you don't have to play perfectly to win, you just need to play above average compared to the people in your lobby. One other update is that my coach noticed that my peaks weren't very good. Basically, I didn't realize that it takes a second to actually get to full speed, so I was peaking when I was not at full speed yet and making myself an easy target to hit. To practice this, he gave me a drill in the range where you use a sage wall and practice peeking and trying to make sure you are at full speed right as you see the target. Basically, you want to see the target right before you're about to make a footstep sound. Okay, now I want to go over some insights I had while playing. The first is, on Fracture, when you are on defense, I think that you can't just sit on site and wait for them to come. I think that you need to push out or take control of one of the 4 lanes, otherwise you just have zero info and then they will just flood out on one of the sites. Like, to me, it just feels super uncomfortable to have no info on any lanes, and it feels much better to play a bit more aggressive. Preferably, you do this with a teammate, but sometimes I would just do it by myself because it just felt too uncomfortable not to. Let me know what you guys think about this. Do you agree? Also, I think this concept would apply to maps like Haven and Lotus as well, because there are 3 sites. The next thing I realized is that what you think the correct play is not the correct play if your team doesn't have the same idea in mind. You can't assume that your teammates are going to make the same play that you have in mind, and so whatever play they are making becomes the correct play. Whatever they are doing, whether you agree with it or not, you need to do your best to make sure it works out, because if you guys are doing 2 different plays, it's definitely not going to work out. Basically, a bad play together is better than a good play by yourself. Alright, that's all I have for this week's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys are learning or getting some kind of value from these videos. As always, if you have any Valorant tips or any constructive criticism for me, leave a comment down below. If you have been enjoying this series, please like, subscribe, and share it with a friend who you think also might enjoy it. Any support is greatly appreciated, and it really helps give me the motivation to keep making these every week. But anyways, take care of yourselves, keep grinding, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Contract complete.
Enemy remaining.
Stopping fire. Focusing. No distractions. That was satisfying.